In almost any film, there are scenes that are unfortunately left on the cutting room floor. During the final editing, prior to the release, 2 subplots were deleted to pick up this film's pace. In the beginning of the film, we meet engineer's mate Peter Preston, who's forced to undergo inspection under the watchful eye of Admiral Kirk.
And who do we have here?
Midshipman First Class, Peter Preston, engineer's mate. Sir!
First training voyage, Mr. Preston.
Yes, sir.
Later, after Khan's first attack on the Enterprise, Scotty carries the wounded Preston to sickbay and stands by overwrought as McCoy pulls the sheet over the young cadet's face. What the audience never knew was why Scotty would react in this fashion. The scene that ended up on the cutting room floor would have established that young Peter Preston was in fact Scotty's nephew.
You're a tiger.
My sister's youngest admiral, crazy to get to space.
Another sequence that was deleted concerned a romance between Lieutenant Savick and David Marcus, played by the late Merritt Buttrick. While the scene with Scotty's nephew later resurfaced when the movie was aired on network television, the romance between Savick and David seems to be gone forever. Now, back to Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Hello, I'm Leonard Nimoy. The Genesis Cave, and the Starship Enterprise for that matter, like so many parts of a science fiction film, existed only in the minds of the writers and on a special effects stage at Industrial Light and Magic. The wizards that created astounding effects for the 3 Star Wars films were also responsible for bringing the special effects in The Wrath of Khan to life. The model of the Enterprise used for the film was originally created by effects master Douglas Trumbull, and when ILM was awarded the contract to produce the special effects for Star Trek II, they inherited the unwieldy 6-foot-long model. On film, the Enterprise may sail through space effortlessly, but in reality, working with the model was anything but simple. It was so heavy that it took a forklift to move it and 8 men to position it for each shot. The internal wiring to run the ship's window and running lights were prone to short circuits. The high-gloss paint wreaked havoc with reflections and made shooting the blue screen matte process extremely difficult. I'm sure that when the time came to destroy the Starship Enterprise in Star Trek III, nary a tear was shed at Industrial Light and Magic. Now, back to Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. This theme runs through the film and has been a cornerstone of Star Trek since the beginning of the series. How many times has Kirk risked his ship and crew to the greater good? Remember Spock's apparent suicide mission into the heart of a giant space-going amoeba? Commodore Decker's fatal plunge into the doomsday machine? And how about Will Decker's sacrifice of his mortal body to V'Ger in Star Trek The Motion Picture? Any member of Starfleet is trained to give his life in order to save others, but until now, none of Star Trek's major characters has had to give that last full measure of devotion. Until now, there's always been a narrow escape. When I was first approached to participate in Star Trek II, Harve Bennett opened with an interesting proposal. Leonard, he said, how would you like to have a great death scene? Who could resist an offer like that? Now, back to Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Let me put one rumor to rest. Contrary to popular belief, I never asked, nor was it in my contract, for Spock to be killed off. But nonetheless, it was an interesting idea. When it came time to shoot Spock's death scene, however, I must admit that I was filled with an ominous sense of foreboding. How do you kill off something that's been a part of you for nearly 20 years? Director Nick Meyer convinced me that if done right, as an essential part of the story, Spock's death would have meaning. I resigned myself to Spock's fate. Before the camera started rolling, Harve Bennett pulled me aside. And little did I know that Harve was thinking ahead of the rest of us, and he was preparing to throw Spock a lifeline. Harve suggested that right before I enter the radiation chamber, I would do a mind meld on the unconscious McCoy. After some thought, I came up with a simple word to implant in McCoy's mind, vague enough to cover a wide range of possibilities. Remember. That done, we went on to film the rest of the scene, and I'll never forget the feeling on the set as we performed the final farewell between two old friends. And then it was done. As we wrapped for the day, I stripped off my ears, makeup, and uniform, and Spock was gone. Forever. At least I thought so. The test audiences who screened the film were left feeling down following the death of Spock, and it was decided that a new ending would be filmed, one that would leave open the possibility of something yet to come. The new ending worked, and Star Trek II went on to enormous box office success, ensuring that the saga and the adventure would indeed live long and prosper. But that's another story. For the Sci-Fi Channel, I'm Leonard Nimoy.